the findings which are there. I have considered rival submission and Peru's record very closely. The prosecution has demanded maximum penalty as provided, and amicus curiae for convict has prayed for minimum sentence. The prosecution has based its claim on the deterrent theory of punishment and has contended that undue leniency towards convict need not be shown, and a message needs to be sent to the society that in such cases law shall deal with offenders with a heavy hand, so that others who are considering to take the same path think twice before acting upon such an idea. On the other hand, amicus curiae contended that convict need not be made an example. All right, let's go straight across to Pranesh, who's joining us with the latest copy of the order, first on Times Now. Over to you.
We've accessed the order copy here. Padmaja, you read the opening remarks of what the judge said. Let me get to the operative bit. Here is para number 13 on the big screen. This is the finding, the list of the findings. I have considered the rival submission and perused the record very carefully. The prosecution has demanded the maximum penalty as provided, as the learned amicus curiae for convict has prayed for minimum sentence. The prosecution based its claim on the deterrent theory of punishment, as contended that undue leniency towards convict need not be shown, and that a message needs to be sent to society that in such cases law shall deal with the offenders with a heavy hand, so that the others...
Okay, let me quickly come to a very important part, which is point 22 onwards. The crimes for which convict has been convicted are of a very serious nature. These crimes, let's underline point number 22, that says these crimes were intended to strike at the heart of the idea of India and intended to forcefully secede Jammu and Kashmir from Union of India. The crime becomes more serious as it was committed with the assistance of foreign powers and designated terrorists. Take it away, 22 point onwards. Pranesh.
Yes, point number 22, the crimes for which convict has been convicted are of very serious nature. These crimes were intended to strike at the heart of the idea of India and intended to forcefully secede Jammu and Kashmir from the Union of India. The crime becomes more serious as it was committed with the assistance of foreign powers and designated terrorists. Quote, not mincing it words, the seriousness of crime is further increased by the fact that it was committed behind the smoke screen of an alleged peaceful political movement. And this is not just about Yasin Malik, the entire ecosystem.
Absolutely. Now let's quickly go across to point number 25. Bhavtosh also joins us on this broadcast. Quickly, point number 25, very importantly, talks about Bhavtosh, where Yasin Malik argued that I have given up the gun, I have become a political player, I have reformed. However, the judgment says, however, in my opinion, there was no reformation of this convict. It may be correct that the convict may have given up the gun in 1994, but he never expressed any regret for violence he committed to the years prior to 1994. When he claimed to have given up the path of violence, the government of India took it at face value and gave him an opportunity to reform. So the whole argument that I am some kind of a Gandhi now, that's not something that the court really bought into. Bhavtosh.
Yes, Padmaja, in fact, this matter has been heard in the court of Special Judge Praveen Singh for a long time, and he virtually punctured hole into all the arguments that were being presented by Yasin Malik, and it in fact clearly said that Yasin Malik and other convicts, as far as other suspects as far as this case is concerned, had wanted to secede from India. And this is what the court had said when it framed charges against other accused in this case, that the court said that they all in fact admitted that they wanted to secede from the country, from India, and this is what the court had said while sentencing Yasin Malik in this case, in which 2 life imprisonment has been given. Padmaja, remember earlier in the day when Yasin Malik was produced in the court, he in fact said that in the 28 years he and his organization has never ever indulged in violence and no one has been killed. And this was something that shocked everyone who was present in the courtroom, including the NIA officials and others. And in the order that has been accessed first by the Times Now.
I think you're in a moving car. We'll try and fix the audio with you in just a second. Let me quickly get Pranesh to read out more from the order while we'll fix that. Pranesh.
As point number 25, admittedly the convict had been engaged in violent terrorist activities prior to 1994. The claim of the convict is that he gave up the gun in the year 1994 and thereafter he was recognized as a legitimate political player, which is evident by the fact that the government of India has been engaging with him and had been providing him the platforms to express his opinions. On the face of it, it seems to be a very sound argument which would give an impression that convict has already reformed. However, in my opinion, there was no reformation of this convict. It may be correct that the convict may have given up the gun in the year 94, but he had never expressed any regret for the violence he committed prior to the year 1994. It is to be noticed, when he claimed to have given up the path of violence after the year 94, the government of India took it upon its face value and gave him an opportunity to reform, and in good faith tried to engage in a meaningful dialogue with him, and as admitted by him, gave him every platform to express his opinion. However, as discussed in the order on charge, the convict did not desist from violence. Rather, betraying the good intentions of the government, he took a different path to orchestrate violence in guise of political struggle.
Yes.
Written in as many words, the convict has claimed that he had followed Gandhian principle of non-violence and was spearheading a peaceful non-violent struggle. However, the evidence on the basis of which charges were framed and to which convict has pleaded guilty speaks otherwise. The entire movement was planned to be a violent movement and large-scale violence ensued is a matter of fact. I must observe here that the convict cannot invoke the Mahatma and claim to be his follower, because in Mahatma Gandhi's principle there was no place for violence. Howsoever high the objective might be, it only took one small incident of violence at Chauri Chaura for the Mahatma to call off the entire non-cooperation movement. But the convict, despite large scale of violence engulfing the valley, neither condemned the violence nor withdrew his calendar of protests which had led to the said violence. So the court calling out the Gandhian farce completely.
Absolutely. And what is worse is that this man claimed that he had laid down arms. He was given a chance for reform and he used that. Let's go over that part again, Pranesh, where he used that as a ruse. Where again the court has said that he belied, he betrayed the good intentions of the government and took a different path to orchestrate violence in the guise of political struggle. This part of the order is perhaps the best answer to those who are saying, what will this punishment achieve? He should be given a chance to reform. So yes, he was given a chance to reform and he used it as a guise to shed more blood. Pranesh.
Let me underline that part once again for our viewers. It is to be noticed that when he claimed to have given up the path of violence after the year 94, the government of India took it upon its face value and gave him an opportunity to reform, and in good faith tried to engage in a meaningful dialogue with him, and as admitted by him, gave him every platform to express his opinion. However, as discussed in the order on charge, the convict did not desist from violence, rather betraying the good intentions, took a different path to orchestrate violence in guise of political struggle. The convict has claimed that he had followed Gandhian principle of non-violence and was spearheading a peaceful violent struggle. However, the evidence on the basis of which charges were framed and to which convict has pleaded guilty speaks otherwise. The entire movement, every word of this sentence is crucial. The entire movement was planned to be a violent movement and large-scale violence ensued is a matter of fact.
Absolutely. Let me quickly go across even to Pradeep Datta, because these are words which will sound like redemption to a lot of people who've been saying for long that the entire excuse we'll get former DGP SP Vaid also on the phone line. This entire attempt, entire excuse is nothing but full of holes. Pranesh.
Absolutely, and we have more voices joining us now. DG, former Jammu and Kashmir DG, Mr. SP Vaid also with us. Sir, if you can hear me, Times Now has accessed the full order of Yasin Malik, and in this, the judge is calling out the Gandhian farce by saying you had every opportunity to reform, the government gave you every platform, but you continued to engage in violence.
All right, we'll try and go across to Mr. Vaid in just a second, taking a very, very quick break at this point. But the first reactions, the big voices and the voices that matter of people who have waited for 3 decades, more than 3 decades, simply to hear the words, Yasin Malik will be in jail till the time he dies. But this is not a moment for vindication. He deserves much, much, much harsher punishment. A very quick break, more big points from the order coming up on the other.